For today's Grimm adventure, we find ourselves once again in Salem. Well, technically it's going to be Salem and Marblehead, Massachusetts, seeking out the filming locations to the 1993 Halloween classic, Hocus Pocus. A little bit later on, we're going to go down into the historic parts of Salem, but for now, we're hanging out just outside of a place called the Salem Pioneer Village, where the opening scenes of the movie took place. Now, believe it or not, the opening shots to Hocus Pocus was actually filmed in two separate locations. The aerial shots of the Pioneer Village were filmed just outside of Plymouth, but all the other shots with Thackeray and Elijah were filmed here at the Salem Pioneer Village, which sadly, it's closed, which is weird because next week is Halloween. So you would think that this place would be open, especially for Halloween. Even though we can't get inside the Pioneer Village today, just standing here at the gate, I can already see some of the buildings that match up perfectly to whenever they made Hocus Pocus. Now, if we turn the camera down this way, you see those three cottages right there? The one on the far end in the movie, that was Thackeray's cottage. And he comes outside because he's hearing the witch singing and he's looking for his sister, Emily. He walks over to Elijah's cottage, which is that one right there, and you can see it clear as day. The windows match up.
Elijah, ask to see my sister Emily.
And they look over to right where I'm standing across the field, and they see the smoke, the purple smoke, and they go running after Emily. Now, what's fun about this whole scene, if you look very closely, it's not a field at all, it's a matte painting. And right where Jessica is, right behind her, where the field would have been, is actually a parking lot, a ball field, and a bunch of houses. Movie magic.
And if they would have run that way, they would have run into the ocean.
Right? I mean, it's right on the water. They don't show that in the movie.
No, I had no idea.
Now, I don't know what it is, but there's just something very witchy about being in Salem in the middle of October. Halloween is next week, and what better time than to do the filming locations to Hocus Pocus, right? Talk about enchanting. Now, before we go any further, I feel like I should let you in on a little bit of secret. Everybody assumes that the movie Hocus Pocus in its entirety was filmed here in Salem. It is not true. It was also filmed in Los Angeles, California, in a little town called Whittier. Now, this building, I'm going to show it to you in just a minute. We're going to talk about it. This was the exterior of the school that Max attended whenever he meets Allison and he gives her the phone number. The interior shots in the classroom where the teacher is telling them about the Sanderson sisters and, you know, the legend and lore, that was filmed in Los Angeles. Magic of Hollywood. Both coasts, all over the country. And oh yeah, baby girl, one more thing that we need to know about Hocus Pocus. The Sanderson sisters, during filming, the actors were never here in Salem. They were always out in Los Angeles. Now, there's one scene where they're standing in front of this building from across the street, and we're gonna stand in the exact same spot where you see the three witches standing there. Okay. But you never see their faces. It's a shot from behind their heads, right? Sneaky, sneaky.
Sneaky.
Now, this is a bit of an establishing shot. We're gonna get a little closer and line up some things, but this was the Jacob Bailey High School where Max and Allison attended school. Again, you have to remember, if it was inside the school, it was filmed in California. If it was outside of the school, it was here in Salem. With that being said, the first time that you see this school is this door, and right above the door it says Jacob Bailey High School. It's about this shot right here when we're first introduced to the school. Now, the sign, Jacob Bailey High School, was right there in the arch. And you see that little box right in about the center of that black area? There was a clock there. Now, end of the school day, the doors swing open, the kids come out, the teachers come out, silly string comes out over top of them. The Halloween season. Now Max comes out the door as well, and his bicycle would have been tied up or chained up right over here in this area. In fact, it's about that shot. Now a lot has definitely changed over the years. This park has definitely changed, but two things remain the same. Right about the center of your screen, just behind the trees, that's the school. And then also right in front of it, you see that concrete patch? That's a basketball court. In this shot, whenever Max and Allison are talking and she's asking them, what, you really don't believe in Halloween? And she ends up giving the number back. It all happened on this side of that basketball court. Now, if we turn over this way, you can see some new trees, but back in 1993, this park wasn't here. These baby trees, they weren't here. They had a lot more trees. So right here, in this little pathway, just on the other side of this bench, this is where the scene with Max and Allison would have taken place.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to embarrass you in class. My name is Max Dennison.
Yeah, I know. You just moved here, huh? Trick or treat?
In fact, you see this fence? As Allison is walking through the park on her way home, right before Max rides his bicycle up to her, you can see the camera moving on the other side of this fence, following her as she's walking along the path. Now, after Max gets his phone number back from Allison, he gets on his bike and he rides home. And right before he takes the shortcut through the cemetery, you see him riding his bike down through these streets, which actually is Marblehead. And right now, I'm standing on the route he would have taken. Now in this scene, you're gonna see a store, it's called Bus Stop. It's still here. It's still named the same exact thing. It says Bus Stop, I'm looking at it right now. And then he turns and he goes right down this street. You'll see what I mean. Now this is the intersection right here. And as you can see, that building on the right-hand side, it says Bus Stop. Now he would have come right down that street on his bike, right past where I am standing, and right down what is State Street. See, it's still here and it's still called Bus Stop. How crazy cool is that? Now this is a real treat. Both Jessica and I, and if you're watching this, more than likely you love the movie Hocus Pocus. We've seen some amazing filming locations, and we started off today just knocking off the filming locations left and right, from the school to Max's house. But for some reason, maybe it's because I love cemeteries, I'm really excited about visiting the cemetery from the beginning of Hocus Pocus, where Max gets his shoes stolen and he encounters Ernie. Don't call him Ernie. But this is it.
Oh, wow. Oh, this is interesting.
This is breathtaking. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little worried that this cemetery was gonna be pretty darn big and it was gonna be hard to try to line up everything, but it's not very big at all. In fact, it's rather small. And I think we're gonna be able to get the shots that we need.
These stones are very interesting. I stopped because there's so much writing on them, and it turns out that this is the wife of a reverend, and next to her is a reverend, but not her husband.
And it does say memento mori, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Right around the head there. Riding his bicycle on the way home, Max decides to take a shortcut through the cemetery, and the camera swings right past this tombstone that says Archibald Sinclair to right about here. And he rides his bicycle pretty much the exact path that Jessica's taking. And the camera follows him, and it ends right about here. Now what's really neat about this, if you look very closely, you can see that gazebo up there. You can also see it in the shot as Max takes his bike right up the path. Now, as small as this cemetery is, this is actually one of the hardest cemetery safaris Jessica and I have ever done. A lot has changed. A lot has definitely changed. It's very old. Now, in this scene, Max rides his bicycle right between these stones right here, and he turns just behind these two. And as he does that, right about there, Jay pops up and says, "Halt! Who are you?"
Halt! How many times I gotta tell you? My name ain't Ernie no more. It's Ice.
I'm Jay, and this is Jessica.
How many times I gotta tell you? It's not Jessica anymore, it's Baby Ghoul.
Baby Ghoul. It's also in this spot, well, in this little general area where they take Max's shoes and they force him to ride home barefoot.
You can't take my shoes. Can I take my shoes? Take my shoes.
Seriously? And then we have our next bit of movie magic. There's a quick scene here in the cemetery where he's on top of the hill and he's getting ready to ride home shoeless. He's in his socks and he stops and he overlooks the town of Salem, and the bell goes off, the bell tower. And what's really interesting about this, that scene, as quick as it is, isn't even here in the cemetery, even though they made it look like that. In fact, it's across town, still here in Marblehead, but it's very quick. I always wondered why they chose to use that instead of just doing it here. I mean, behind us, look, there's a gazebo back there. There's a hill. Who knows? But that's where we're heading next. Now, this is definitely not a cemetery, that's for sure. But I will say this. It is beyond breathtaking. All the different boats out there in the water. Man. So where I'm standing right now is called Crocker Park. Not too far from where they shot the cemetery scenes where Max meets Jay and Ernie. Well, I mean, Ice. I'm searching for a very quick scene where he's standing on top of the hill overlooking Salem right before he heads home. I'm telling you what, visiting the filming locations, it's a treat. But 9 times out of 10, it's the journey getting there that becomes the most memorable. This is gorgeous. A lot has changed over the years, that's for sure, but this is it. I keep calling it the bell tower, but in all actuality, it's a clock tower. You can see it from this angle, even down to the points of the roof of the church.
Later, dude. See you, homie.
Man, this is like cool as heckins. In the very next scene, without shoes, Max rides his bicycle right down this hill to his home. And he drops the bicycle off right over there by the trash cans, and he goes inside, and his parents notice that he's not wearing any shoes. Now, something I didn't realize is Max's house is right on the water. There's a pier right over there with some boats. Pretty darn relaxing, that's for sure. And another thing that I didn't realize is in the movie his house looks so massive, mainly because they had the camera down close to the ground pointing up, but it's not a very big house. Private property, no trespassing signs, which is okay, because we're not going to go on the porch, but we can walk. But I thought this was rather neat. Look at this, it's a little flag with black cats on it. How perfectly fitting.
Come, little children, I'll take thee away.
I really wish that we can get inside this house, go up there and sit at the top of the steps up there, the very top of Max's room. How cool would that be?
Little children, the time's come to play.
Next up, we have Allison's house. Now, there's 2 things that you need to know before we show you Allison's house. The first one is this. In the movie Hocus Pocus, you're introduced to Allison's house during the trick-or-treating scenes. Now here's the fun thing, movie magic. The trick-or-treating scenes were actually in California. Allison's house is here in Salem. Completely different coasts. And it happens like that. You can't even tell that they switch neighborhoods or even states or even coasts for that matter. And the other thing, and this to me is probably the coolest of them all. When you see the inside of Allison's house when she comes down the stairs and they're going through the trick-or-treating bowl at the bottom, you've seen that house before. You ready for it? That same interior, Scream 2, as well as Catch Me If You Can. The same staircase, the clock at the very top, everything is still there. The only thing that changed is the people.
The decorations too.
Yep.
Allison's house that was decorated for Halloween.
Now I'm gonna go ahead and say this, out of every place that we've been today, and we've been at this since early this morning, this by far is the busiest location of them all. Now it could be that right down the street is the famous witch house, and we're not too far from Essex Street and the Salem Witch Museum. But this here, I mean, everybody loves Allison's house. Everybody does. It's Hocus Pocus. I mean, this is where, you know, little Danny, she cried. You know I love you, right? You're gonna have to do some reenacting.
But there's no hay.
It's okay.
I don't
You
have a
can
pumpkin
pretend.
pail.
That's the joy of acting. Well, you don't have a pumpkin pail, but you do have a pumpkin purse.
But I don't want to throw myself on the ground.
You can pretend. You'd be like, oh, woe is me. All right, here we go. We have a bit of a window because most people have come over here and gotten their pictures. Man, this is a beautiful house. Look at this. All right, I got chills. I got chills. Now picture this, Halloween night, trick-or-treating. Max and Danny are having a blast, and then they have a little bit of a fight, and Danny says, what?
I want to go home.
She takes off down here, and she turns the corner, and she throws herself down on a bale of hay, right, right where Jessica's at, in front of Allison's house.
Give me one more chance.
Why should I?
Because I'm your brother.
In an attempt to try to make Danny feel better, Max looks up at the sky and says, I thought I saw something fly across the moon. And then they both turn around and they see the house for the first time, and they both say, wow, look at this house.
Rich people. They probably make you drink cider and bob for apples.
And then they walk in, they take some liberties, and they meet Allison.
Ooh, Allison! Michael likes your yabos.
Wait a second, don't tell her that. I like her yabos instead. Look at that. First visit to the witch house. One of the only houses still in Salem that ties directly to the witch trials in 1692. God, this is a beautiful picture. Well, the last stop on our Hocus Pocus filming locations tour is at the bottom of Derby Square here. And we came across a very interesting character.
Yabos!
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
This right here, the old town hall here in Salem. The location of the Halloween party from Hocus Pocus. Where supposedly they sang, I put a spell on you in the movie. But I hate to break it to you. This is the exterior shots of it, but the interior, the party scenes, were actually filmed in Los Angeles in a very, very old hotel that's kind of closed up and abandoned now. We visited it. Now what's really funny about this, we've been in Salem for a couple of days now, and pretty much everything we've done has centered around this building. We knew what it was, but we didn't turn the camera at all to it until tonight. Because we gotta talk about it. We gotta line up a few different shots and just talk about some movie magic when it comes to Hocus Pocus. Get it? Magic, witches, ooh, makes sense. Obviously our camera is a little bit more wide-angled lens, but this right here is the old town hall where the Halloween party happened. And this is pretty much the shot that you would have got when they rolled up looking for the parents.
Oh, great. How are we ever going to find Mom and Dad in this place?
Now obviously the doors are closed right now, but in the movie they were open. It was a party. There was a Mad Hatter and a witch standing in the doorway when they walked in, and then the camera pans over this way, past the brick wall, up here to the second window pane, as you see them run up the stairs to get their parents. And you know what, baby girl? I think that's about it for our Hocus Pocus filming location video here in Salem and Marblehead, Massachusetts. For the most part, everything was filmed here, but it was also filmed in Los Angeles, Whittier, as well as backlots and sound stages.
Yeah.
So with that being said, from where we're standing right now in historic Salem, Massachusetts,
During Halloween.
right? Thank you for joining us on another Grimm adventure, and as always, happy Halloween.
Hi, I'm Dylan. I'm from Salem, Massachusetts. Happy Halloween!
Wherever I come, bad luck just comes my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. Bad luck's always coming my way.